ॐ सदाशिवसमारम्भां शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमाम्
मध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे
परम्पराम् ॐ
गुरुपरम्पराम्
सहना भवतु सहनौ
सहनाववतु
भुनक्तु
सहनौ
सह
भुनक्तु
वीर्यं करवावहै
करवावहै
तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहैः
तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा
ॐ
ॐ
शान्ति
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 शान्तिः
शान्तिः।
Om Tat Sat, Om Namah Shivaya. Good morning.
Namaः शिवाय।
So we had completed, we are on Anuvaka number 9, and we had completed up to Tapascha Swadhyaya Pravachanacha. So now we are looking at the next one. Damascha Swadhyaya Pravachanacha. So this is Tamaha, sensory discipline. We have seen this in Rathabodha. Tamaha is what? Indriya Nigraha, the control over the sense organs. And we should remember that control is always, through your own willpower. It's always voluntary. And we are not talking about external suppression. So this is internal control. And what are the, Shastric injunctions should follow? That whenever we are talking about tamaha, we should remember that whatever asuri sampatti is there, whatever is the negative qualities which Gita calls asuri sampatti, those should be avoided. And whatever negative positive qualities are there, which Gita calls daivi sampatti, we should encourage them. So in that context only, sensory discipline is there. The next one is samascha swadhyaya pravachanesa. And Shankara defines shamaha very nicely. He says shamaha is equal to antakarana upashamaha. Upashamaha means of withdrawal, restraining, filtering. So Shankara's definition is that shamaha means watching the mind, watching the flow of thoughts. It's a thought discipline. Remember that thoughts come into your mind. And why is this important? Because it's like a glass where you are filling water, right? As long as the glass is not completely full, the water remains in the glass. Once the glass is completed, the capacity of the glass has been exhausted, any further water that you fill will flow out onto the table or onto the ground. This is a similar idea that the antakaranam contains is a container for the thoughts. And once thoughts keep bubbling up, you know that antakaranam has always got thoughts bubbling up. So once the antakaranam is full, the thoughts will flow over. And when I say thoughts flow over, what does that mean?
That I don't have any control. It just comes out.
What is the
Even if
manifestation?
unnecessary.
It
What is
can
the
manifest as anger or um,
Not
or
necessarily anger.
anger is a
Anything.
thought?
Anything.
Anger is a thought.
Ah,
Don't think that thought and anger are different. Anger is very much a thought. It's a very subtle idea. I mean, very simple actually. When the mind is full of something, what happens?
Distress,
confusion.
we speak with words, we say it out, na?
Exactly. That overflow of the words, of the thoughts, it manifests as words. And therefore, any word which you speak is nothing but a reflection of your thought. Because when at the thought level your mind is saturated, then it will start flowing out into words. And when words also, are unable to take the full flow, then it turns into actions, violence. And therefore, Shankara says, at the level of the antakaranam itself, you should filter, upashamaha, you should filter the thought. Make sure that the thoughts are addressed at the level of the thoughts itself, in the antakaranam itself. And therefore, what will happen is the external flow into words will not happen. And we have seen how to handle thoughts. You have Pratipaksha Bhavana, you can take to meditation, you can take to japa, anything which enables you to focus away from those disturbing thoughts. The next one is Agnayascha Swadhyaya Pravachalecha. So this basically symbolizes all Vedic rituals, because in every Vedic ritual we have Agni. And of course, Shankara here makes a commentary. He says you should take Agni as Adhatavya. Adhatavya is a um, expression in Karma Kanda, which means that it refers to a particular fire, which is meant for rituals mandated by Shruti. Remember, there are rituals mandated by Smriti also, like Puranas, Itihasas have got rituals. But here he's talking about the Vedic Agni, the Agni meant for using in Vedic rituals, and that is called Adhatavyaha. So Agni here has to refer to the fire meant for rituals mandated in the Veda only. For example, when a person gets married, of course, I'm saying person meaning a person who has faith in the scriptures, who follows the scriptures. So essentially, when a Vaidika gets married, there are certain rituals, right? Now, what is the first part of the marriage?
Vivaha.
Vivaha. In Vivaha, is there Agni? Yes. There is a Agni. A fire is lit up. Okay. Now, this fire is called the Aupasana fire. Aupasana Agni. Right? And this, remember, this Aupasana Agni is not a Vedic Agni. It's a Smarta Agni. Smarta means part of Smriti. And according to the caste tradition, this Smarta Agni, around which you get married, that Vivaha Agni, is a Smarta Agni. It's not Vedic Agni. Okay. The Smarta Agni is to be preserved by you. How do you do that? When you go home from the, you know, wedding pandal, you don't go straight to the hotel for the honeymoon suit, right? You take fire brand from there, and then you go, right? You take the fire brand, take it home, and you kindle a fire. So that is also Smartha Agni, because that is taken from the Smartha Agni of the wedding. You take that, you kindle a fire, and there is another ritual. Within 6 months of taking that fire home, you have to kindle another fire from that Smartha Agni. Now remember, you are married now, so there is a better half also. And when you do that, then the new fire that you kindle is called a Shrauta Agni. Right? Shrauta means related to Shruti. So the second fire which you actually kindle from the Smartha Agni, which you have taken home from the wedding pandal, this is to be done within 6 months of coming home. And that's called a Shrauta Agni. So Shrauta Agni is that Agni which is kindled from the Smartha Agni. And this ritual of kindling the Shrauta Agni from the Smartha Agni is called Agni Adhan. This is what Shankaracharya is referring to. The ritual of generating the Shrauta Agni is called Agni Adhan. And now, once you have kindled, remember you are the Grahastha, right? Once you have kindled this Shrauta Agni, you are what is known as got an exalted status. Because up till the time that you kindle this Shrauta Agni, you could not do Shauta karmas. Shruti karmas you could not do. You could only do karmas which have been mentioned in the Sparta, in the Smritis. But now that you've got the Shauta Agni at home, you can fulfill all the Shrauta karmas at home. Right? Now, out of all the Shrauta karmas, whenever I say Shrauta karmas, it means karmas which are mandated in Shruti, in Vedas themselves. Okay, karma kanda. The most fundamental of all these Shrauta karma is which one for a grahastha?
Agnihotra.
Agnihotra.
Agnihotra. Right. So once you have done Agnihotram, you have become an Ahita Agni, who has got a Ahita Agni in his house. And therefore he says Agnihotra Swadhyaya Pravachanacha. The most fundamental karma to be done, right? This is the Agnihotram karma. And this Agnihotram karma is supposed to be done from using the Shrauta Agni. Now, traditionally, remember, this Shrauta Agni is not supposed to go out. It is supposed to be maintained 24/7 by 365 throughout your life. This Shrauta Agni can go out only under two circumstances. One is when the Grahastha dies, his cremation fire has to be lit from this Shrauta Agni alone. And once that cremation fire is lit, and the body is gone, then only can the Shrauta Agni be allowed to be extinguished. There is another condition under which the Shrauta Agni can go out. And I suppose all of you know that. What is that?
Sannyas.
His wife
Sannyas.
passes away.
No.
No?
Sannyasa.
Sannyas.
Sannyasi.
When you take
Okay.
sannyasa, that you have renounced all rituals. Therefore, the Shrauta Agni is no longer applicable.
But he cannot do also, no, Acharya, once he loses his wife.
So that is, according to Shastram, there are stages where the indicators or triggers for you to take sannyasa. So one trigger is when you lose your wife, you should take sannyasa. The other trigger is when you have a grandchild, you should take sannyasa. That is even if your wife is alive, okay. And the third trigger is the one which, if that was applicable, I would have had to take sannyasa 40 years ago. What is that trigger?
You said gray hair.
When the first gray hair
The
appears,
first gray hair.
you should take sannyasa. Okay. So these are rituals. These are the conditions in Shastra. Okay. So this is the importance of Sautagni. Then Atithayascha Swadhyaya Pravachanacha. This is also a mandatory, duty for you. Entertaining guests, accommodation for them, food for them. And we saw this in Gita as Manushya Yajna. Right? Then Manusham cha Swadhyaya Pravachanacha. So this Manusham here is different from Atithiyascha. Atithi means entertain the guests. Manusham here refers to generally society, though therefore it means all the fulfillment of all your social obligations. As a member of society, I keep taking from society and therefore I am indebted to society. And Shastra says that you have to fulfill these obligations. You cannot die without fulfilling an obligation because any debts which you leave behind, they have a problem. What is that? You have to be reborn to fulfill those debts, to pay out those debts. Then there are three which we take together. Prajacha swadhyaya pravachanacha, prajanascha swadhyaya pravachanacha, prajatishcha swadhyaya pravachanacha. Three things we take together. These three things put together, you will recognize as what? Out of the Pancha Mahayajna, which one is this? It's pretty obvious actually. Prajaha,
Manushya.
not Manusha. No. These three put together give you the duties of a grahastha. And therefore, Pitra Yajna.
Triyagna.
So, a little extension here from the normal Pitra Yajna. Because prajacha swadhyaya means you have a duty to have children, right? It is the duty of every grihastha to carry forward the name of the family, and therefore he has to have children. So prajacha swadhyaya pravachane. Convert that action of getting children into deliberate sadhana, right? It's a very unique attitude in the Vedas that anything at all you can convert it to sadhana. So even the action of having children, convert that into sadhana. So, for example, one very fundamental action is what breathing. That also you can convert into sadhana. How?
Pranayam.
Apane juhati pranam. Ita. Okay.
Mm.
And also maintain an appropriate attitude. So therefore, once you have chosen to make every action a yajna, then time and place become very, very important. And therefore, you should have time and place for appropriate time and place for eating. That is why traditionally there is a fixed time and a fixed place. You can't just go anywhere and eat. And this is the reason only why getting children, producing children is a natural process. And that is why marriage becomes a sacred ritual called vivaha. Right? And therefore you hear the phrases sahadharmacharani. The wife is sahadharmacharani. Kama is fulfilled, of course. Artha is also fulfilled. And in fact, there is a ritual which is done at the time of the lady getting pregnant. Do you know what that ritual is called?
Garbhadan.
Garbhadana samskara. It's a sacred ritual. Everything is a ritual. Okay, so that's one of the beauty of our scriptures. Then prajanascha swadhyaya pravachate. So prajanam is prajananam. So Shankara says a very careful definition. Ritau bharya gamanam iti artha. So Ritau, at the appropriate time, the man should go towards the bharya. What is the meaning of bharya?
Wife.
Spouse, wife.
Yes, that is what is the literal meaning?
Bharya and Bharta. So Bharya is the dependent,
Bharya,
one who's
it's not a
protected
very
or
nice
भार
meaning.
उठाने वाला भार उठाने वाला
और उठाने वाला नहीं. Bhar itself is bharya.
yeah.
Bharta is bhar उठाने वाला. The husband is supposed to be carrying the burden. Unless, we don't need
Yeah.
to go into all that. Bharya simply means wife. So, Ritau Bharya Gamanam iti artha. At the appropriate time, the man should go towards the lady. And incidentally, traditionally, even the union of the man and wife is supposed to be, appropriate place, appropriate time, and appropriate Vaidika mantras, so that the child is going to be a Vaidika child only. Then Prajatischa Swadhyaya Pravachalecha. So Prajatihi is basically broken into Pautra Utpattihi. The Rahim Prajatihi is Pautra Utpattihi. The origin of children, the grandchildren being born. Prajatihi, Pautra Utpattihi, getting grandchildren. Okay, that is why, Shastra says that your children should always be got married in a proper manner. And traditionally, Shruti therefore requires the parents to get the children married. Right? That's why the big thing in India about my kid has to get married, my kid has to get married. It is basically Shruti commandment. It is the duty of the parents to get the children married. So there's no, scope for love at first sight and what. Of course, there's only one exception to the rule. You need not get your son married if what?
Sannyasa.
Take sannyas. Right? So, as I said, Dharma Shastra also gives the time for Vanaprastha. What are those three I already told you. Once you have a grandchild, or on the first sight of gray hair, or on the death of your wife, there's one additional, stipulation on Shashtapurti, on the 60th birthday. Anyway, today there is no Vanam at all, so where is the question of Vanaprastha? So now comes a small little discussion. So here Shruti is pointing out that the background is something like this, that three rishis were having a discussion on this particular Anuvaka, it looks like. And the topic was among all the disciplines mentioned so far, which is the most important? So each rishi mentions one discipline as the most important, and this is what is said over here. Okay, so Satyameti Satyavacha Ratitharaha. So Satyameti Satyavacha Ratitharaha. So Ratitharaha is the name of a rishi. And this rishi was supposed to be an expert on, on truth, on Satyam. And therefore he is called Satyavachaha, the one who always speaks the truth. So Satyavacha Ratitaraha is the name. That person called Ratitaraha, that rishi called Ratitaraha, who always speaks the truth. What does he say? Satyam iti. He says the highest value is the truth. Everything else is secondary. Okay, now I need to point out that Satyam here is not Satyamithya Satyam. Satyamithya Satyam is the context of Jnana. Here this is Dharma Shastram, ethical context. So Satyam means the truth, speaking the truth only. Okay. Why are we saying that this context is ethical context? Because this is Siksha only. It's Karma Kanda, it's dealing with Dharma Shastra only. Therefore, he says that the discipline of always speaking the truth is the highest sadhana. Then the next one is Tapahati Taponityaha Paurushishtihi. So Paurushishtihi is another rishi, and Taponityaha is an adjective, which becomes a name. So Taponitya Paurushishtihi, which means Rishi Paurushishtihi, who was Taponityaha, always engaged in austerity. Nitya Tapaha. And then what will he say? He say Tapahati. He say Tapa alone. Tapaha alone, austerity alone is the highest spiritual sadhana. Then the next one is Swadhyaya Pravachane Eveti Nako Pautkalyaha. So,
इस पे रखा है इसको दो थोड़ी देर पास उतार देंगे तो
can you guys please put off your mic, whoever is speaking? Okay. Swadhyaya Pravachane Eveti Nako Pautkalyaha. So this is Nako Rishi. Nako Rishi, Nako Maudgalyaha is the name. Okay, so here Nako is the Rishi's name, and Maudgalya is the name of his father. So Nako Rishi, Nako Maudgalya means Nako Rishi, son of Maudgalya. He says what? Swadhyaya Pravachane Eveti. He says Swadhyaya, that is studying the scriptures, and Pravachanam Cha, and sharing the knowledge. So first you study and then you share. That is the highest sadhana. So three rishis have given three different opinions. Right? What is the first one? First one says speaking the truth alone is the highest sadhana. Second one says doing tapaha, austerity alone is the highest sadhana. And the third one says that doing study of the scriptures and then teaching, swadhyaya and pravachanam. That is the highest sadhana. Right? What does scripture say? Scriptures, what says is given in the last line. Tadhi tapastadhi tapaha. Tadhi, wo he, that itself. So that itself refers to what? The words of Rishi Nako Madgalyaha. That itself. Since it's directly following the other one, the other line, it means that itself. That itself means what is said in the previous line, which is what Swadhyaya and Pravachanam is the greatest discipline. And Tadhi Tapaha, again repeated. right? You have to note that tad he has to be split into tat plus he. And he here means because. Yasmat. Yasmat means what? Swadhyaya pravachane eva tapaha. That alone is the tapaha. Swadhyaya itself is the tapaha. Right? So it covers everything. And therefore, Shankara says, therefore, these two must always be followed as top priority. Swadhyaya and Pravachanam has to be followed as top priority. Okay, before going on to the next Anuvaka, we have talked about Panchamahayajna, where
Pranagranth.
in
Satyabodha.
did we talk about Panchamahayajna?
Sadhana Panchakam.
Bhagavad Gita.
Bhagavad
Bhagavad Gita.
Gita. Okay, chapter 3. Okay, now Krishna has always said that he is not teaching anything of his own. He is always drawing from the Upanishads, right? There is no teaching, Krishna's teaching. Krishna is only teaching the Vedic teaching, the Upanishadic teaching or the Karmakanda teaching. So the question can come, where does Panchamaha Yajna come from? So this Anuvaka is the source. And can you make out, look at, for example, Agniyascha Swadhyaya cha, which means what? Agnihotram cha Swadhyaya Pravachanacha. Those two things, Agniyascha Swadhyaya cha and Agnihotram cha Swadhyaya cha. Which of the Panchamaga Yajnas can you relate that to? It's very simple.
Devayagni.
Deva Yajna, because Agnihotra means what? You are
The
offering them
puja.
to gods
Yes.
only. No? Why is it so difficult? So both Agniyascha Swadhyaya and Agnihotram Swadhyaya refers to Deva Yajna. Pitra Yajna I have already told you. Praja Swadhyaya, Prajanascha Swadhyaya, Prajatishcha Swadhyaya is Pitra Yajna. Then Athityascha Swadhyaya and Manusham cha Swadhyaya is which Yajna?
Manushya Yagni.
Manusha Yajna. And the fact, this has to be understood properly, the fact that everywhere there is a repetition of Swadhyaya Pravachana, that is invoking the Lord, therefore Brahma Yajna, right? The four of the Yajnas are directly traceable here. Bhuta Yajna you have to supply. It's not traceable in this particular Anuvaka. But generally, since you are talking about Manushya, all living beings have to be included. So Bhuta Yajna has to be also added here. With this, Anuvaka 9 is over. I will request Rajni ji to do Anuvaka 10.
Om Acharya ji.
Om.
ॐ अहं वृक्षस्य रेरिवा कीर्तिः पृष्ठं गिरेरिव ऊर्ध्वपवित्रो वाजनीव स्वमृतमस्मि द्रविणगुं सवर्चसं सुमेधा अमृतोक्षितः इति त्रिशङ्कोर्वेदानुवचनम्.
Thank you. Very nice again. So this, of course, is a very, very small Anuvaka. Now, in the earlier sections, we have covered karma and upasana. And karma is kaika karma. Upasana is manasika karma. What are the benefits of karma and upasana? One is that they can be practiced as sakama. Sakama means I need to get something, to get some benefit. So they can be practiced for your material benefits. And material benefit can be in this world or for the next world, right? Ihaloka material benefit. I don't want lots of money. I want a good spouse. I want great children. I want a comfortable life. Ihaloka results. What about Paraloka result? Next life result. What would I pray for?
Swarg.
Swarga. Right. The punyam which is generated, I can either utilize that punyam. Remember that karma upasana both generate punyam. So I can utilize the punyam either for asking for material benefits here or asking to go to Swarga. Right. And when I'm doing that, how do I do it? You have to mention this in the resolution which you take at the beginning of the prayer or the karma or the upasana. And the resolution is called a sankalpa. You say, whatever punyam I've generated, or Lord, from this particular activity, let it go towards such and such a end. That is the sankalpa. And therefore, you are doing sadhana as a sakama karma or a sakama upasana. That is one type of benefit. Now, supposing you are not interested in the material benefit, you can do the same karma and the same upasana. But there, you ask for spiritual, or you don't ask at all. Right? So either way, whether you ask for spiritual punyam or you don't ask for any material punyam, spiritual punyam is generated because no karma upasana can not give results. Now the spiritual punyam you can encash in the form of chitta shuddhi, right? Sadhana chatushtayam. You say that the spiritual punyam, let it be encashed towards giving me chitta shuddhi. Now, you might say, what if I already have Chitta Shuddhi because of lots of earlier practice, right? Then you ask for Guru Prapti. Without Guru, without teacher, Shastra cannot give you anything at all. And if, therefore, as a sadhaka, you are interested only in moksha and not in ihaloka phalam or paraloka phalam, for such a person, Shruti says there is a special mantra for jnana prapti, right? So remember that because you are in this class, you are all presumed to be Uttama Adhikaris. Right? So for such Uttama Adhikaris, there is a japa, a mantra which has been given out by Trishanku Rishi. Who is Trishanku?
Uh, I think he was that king who wanted to
Okay. So that
be.
Trishanku we will refer to as Trishanku number one.
Hmm.
The hanging Rishi,
Hmm.
Yeah.
hanging in between the earth and the heaven. So this is not that. This is not the hanging Trishanku. The intermediate Trishanku, this is not. There is a rishi called Trishanku who is separate from this king who was sent up by Vishwamitra. Okay, this is not that Trishanku. This is a different Trishanku called Trishanku Rishi. And he gives this particular mantra out. That's why it ends with Iti Trishankor Vedanu Veda Anuvachanam is the mantra which is uttered after gaining Atmagyan. So Veda here means what? Not Karma Kanda or Jnana Kanda. Veda itself here means the result of Jnana Kanda, which is Atma Jnana. And iti Trishanko Veda, Trinkor Veda Vachanam, Trishanku, after he discovered that he was Brahman, after he got Atma Jnanam, Trishanku says that all glories of Brahman are what? Are mine only. Whatever glory you attribute to Brahman, you can attribute to me because I am that Brahman. I have found out, I have discovered that I was, I am, and always will be that Brahman. So this is a sort of a mantra which enables us to break free of the dasoham slavery. I am the what I call devotee, and he is the Lord. I am dependent upon him. All that mindset is actually slavery, right? Slavery is slavery, whether your boss is another man or whether your boss is Ishvara, right? So whether you work for, a multinational with a CEO as the boss, you are still a slave because he's the boss. And if you are in the spiritual field, if you are saying Ishvara, Ishvara all the time, you are still a slave because he is the boss. Therefore, this particular mantra is going to help us break the Dasoham mindset and take a step to Aham Brahmasmi. Okay. Remember that at no point of the discussion we are saying that Ishvara is not important. Why is Ishvara important? Because your very existence as a jiva is on the Jagat, which Ishvara has created. You cannot come to Jnanam without being a jiva, right? A stone cannot have Jnanam. So as a jiva, you can come to Jnanam provided you are a human jiva, which is the highest among all the jivas. And even to reach there, what has happened? You have to have Ishvara to give you that particular form. So in the process of, all these kind of mantras, where we look, where we say that Ishvara is mithya, Ishvara is not important, remember that this is from Paramarthika viewpoint. You cannot dismiss Ishvara at the Vyavaharika viewpoint. And that is why Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, the 7th chapter, that the highest bhakta is who? Who is Parama Bhakta?
Jnani. Jnani.
Yeah.
The Jnani. So this you must always remember that throughout the Upanishads, you will get, you might almost call it Ishvara Ninda. It's not really Ishvara Ninda. It's a acceptance that Ishvara is mithya. And don't think of the mithya as something unimportant because you are also mithya, right? You are as mithya as Ishvara is. And therefore, in the Vyavaharika world, you must have Ishvara as a very important part of the discussion. But if you want to get to moksha, you have to get to the uh, other aspect of Ishvara, not the Maya. The Lakshartham of Ishvara is what? Is Brahman only. And that is where you go to. And therefore he says, Aham vrikshasya re riva. Aham vrikshasya re riva. So they are all different words. Aham vrikshasya re riva. Vriksham refers to what over here? Vriksha is a tree. So what is the vriksha that it can refer to?
The Ashwatha tree referred to as the
Samsara
samsara.
vriksha. Right. So vrikshasya, of this samsara vriksha, literal translation, vrikshasya, of this samsara vriksha, aham, I, re riva. So re riva means prerayita. Prerayita means activator, supporter, right? So of this samsara vriksham, I am the supporter. How do I support? So remember here, you are taking the lakshyartha of jiva. What is lakshyartha of jiva?
Atma.
Atma. So the I here, aham is jivasya lakshyartha atma. And atma is nothing but Brahman. So as atma, who is no other than Brahman, I am the supporter of this samsara vrikshaha. How do I support samsara vrikshaha? I give existence to the universe. Sat, the existence of samsara, is lent by me, right? The Brahman. What is the example for us in the Vyavaharika world?
This Shloka
Can you
Dekhara,
repeat the question, Acharya?
I am saying that as Brahman, from the Paramarthika angle, the entire Vyavaharika world is supported by me, Brahman. Atma. If you want to give an example in daily life, what would you use? What example would you use? Similar example, supporting example.
The
The
dream
dream
world.
world.
The Vishwa is the supporter for the.
As the Vishwa, I lend support to the Swapna Prapancha. By lending existence to the Swapna Prapancha, Similarly, as Brahman, I support the Vyavaharika world by lending existence. How do I know? When I wake up, the dream world is gone. Right? Now, of course, the difference. When I wake up in Vyavaharika, the dream world, the Vyavaharika world doesn't go away. What happens to the Vyavaharika world when I wake up to Atmagyanam? You have to draw a parallel, right? You are saying when I wake up as Vishwa, the Swapna Prapancha is gone. When I wake up to my nature as Vishwa, when the dreamer wakes up to his nature as Vishwa, the waker, the dream world goes away. How will you express that same idea when I, the Jiva, wake up to my real nature as Brahman? What happens?
Jivan Mukti.
Jagat is mithya.
I discover
He
that the world goes
understands
away.
Uh,
I discover that Vyavaharika world goes away, not because it physically disappears, but because I have done Mithyatva Nishchayaha. I have understood that that world is Mithya. Okay. Also, remember that I lend consciousness to the world also. Chit also I lend to this world. Because all bodies are alive only because it borrows consciousness from me. In short, I am Satta, Spurti, Pradhataha, the one who gives Satta and Spurti. So I am that Satta Chaitanya Pradhata, the giver of existence and consciousness. Therefore, only Vishnu is called Vishwadharam, Vishwadharam. Vishwadharam means the very substratum of the entire universe, which of course we have to remember Mithya Jagat Adhisthana. And how do I have to get out of this samsara tree? You have to remember the 15th verse, 15th chapter. I think it was verse 3 or something. Asanga shastrena dridena chitva. With the axe of dispassion, we have to cut the samsara vrikshaha. Okay. Then the next one is kirtihi prishtam irer ivaha. So prishta means the peak, the very top of the mountain. So kirti girehe gireriva prishta, the top of the mountain. And what is the comparison? Kirtihi. I am as famous in this universe as the top of a mountain. And Mount Everest is famous. And therefore, I am as well known as the top of the highest mountain. Kirtihi Prishtham Gireriva. Who is saying all this? Who is saying this?
Rishanku, Rishi.
The Shanku, the Jiva, who has discovered that he is
Brahman.
Jivan Mukta. Right. Then Urdhvam Pavitro Vajaniva Swamruta Samrutam Asmi. Okay. So I am absolutely pure. Why? Because Jnanam purifies completely. As Krishna said, Nahi Jnanena Sadrisham Pavitra. So Urdhvam means absolute. Pavitram means pure. Urdhvam Pavitraha. I am absolutely pure. So that is fine. What does Shankara says? Shankara says this Urdhvam, Urdhvam Pavitram, of course you break up as the normal way. Urdhvam plus Pavitram. And in the meaning I gave you, I said Urdhvam can be taken as absolute highest, the highest Pavitram, absolute purity. Shankara says you can take Urdhvam as Karana, cause. And you can take Pavitram as Jnana Prakashyam, as that which is revealed by Jnana. See, Pavitram can be defined in word also, Pavanam. So Pavanam, Shankara says, can be taken as Jnana Prakashyam, means revealed by knowledge. So what is the final meaning? I am that Param Brahma, which is Urdhvam, which is Jagat Karanam. I am that Jagat Karanam Brahma, which is Pavitram, which is revealed by study of the Shastra. Very beautiful meaning for Urdhvam Pavitram. I am that Param Brahma, who is the Jagat Karanam, who is revealed by studying Shastra. Next is Vajaniva Samritam Asmi. So, Vaji means what? Very famous meaning. Vaji means Suryam, the sun. And that is why Vajam means Annam. Why? Because it is because of Surya alone that Annam is nourished. Therefore, in fact, that other way around is the derivation. Vajam means Annam. Therefore, one who nourishes that Annam is Vaji. That is how Surya is described as Vaji, because Vajam is the Annam. And the one who has the Annam is the Vaji. One who nourishes the Annam is the Vaji. Therefore, Vajaniva Samritam Asmi. So, Vajam is Annam only. Right? And the possessor of Annam is Surya Bhagavan. There is another interpretation where other commentators say that Surya Bhagavan is the one who enables Annam to be produced because sunlight and rains. So it can be as the possessor of Annam, as the nurturer of Annam also. Okay. Another interpretation which we have seen, thankfully, right, in chapter 3 of Chandogya Upanishad. I don't know how many of you have been attending those classes. In Chandogya Upanishad, in chapter 3, we had Upasana, where Surya Bhagavan was visualized as having 5 portions: white, red,
Yeah.
dark spots, etc. Right? On each of these portions, we said in the Upasana, we said that each of those portions, the white, light, red, all those dark spots, etc., they serve as what? Annam for the Devatas. And that is why he is called Vaji, because he possesses the Annam which is there for Devatas. So I can explain this now because Chandogya, we have done that portion, right? Otherwise, it will be just explanation. So he says, Amrita must be, I am immortal. Because of all this, I am immortal. And then Dravinam Savarchasam. Dravinam means dhanam, wealth. Savarchasam means possessed of radiance, brilliance, shining. And what is that shining wealth? No, he's simply saying that I am the possessor of shining wealth. So the mantra doesn't expand. And therefore you look at Shankara, and Shankara says that this shining, brilliant wealth, what will Shankara say it is?
Brahma Varchasena, is it
This
that?
Atma Tattvam is the wealth. The knowledge of Atma is the wealth. Why? Because Atma is Swayam Prakasha, therefore shining. Therefore, Dravinam Savarchasam can be said that I am Dravinam Savarchasam. I am that very Atma Tattva. I am that very Brahman, which is the essence of Atma. So I am Dravidam Savarchasam. I am that Atma only. I am that Brahman only. And the second meaning, of course, Shankara himself says, he says, this knowledge, this Brahma Jnanam itself is shining. Why? Because it reveals Brahman itself. The knowledge which reveals this ever shining Brahman, this self-effulgent Brahman is revealed by a knowledge. Obviously, that knowledge also has to be very bright, very shining all the time. And therefore, he says, it is called money, it is called wealth. Why? Because it is a cause of the ultimate happiness, moksha, right? Moksha sukha hetutvat, he says, because it is the reason for the highest, highest sukham, which is moksha. And what does wealth do? It buys you happiness. And this Atma Tattvam, this spiritual knowledge, it buys you moksha. Therefore, it is also called wealth. Then Sumedha Amrito Kshipaha. So Sumedha means the one who has the most auspicious Medha. Medha. Su is for Shobhanaha. So Shobhanaha Medha. One who has the most auspicious Medha. Right? And Shankara here adds one word. Medha he adds, and then he says Sarvagnya Lakshanaha. That Medha, which is Sarvagnya Lakshanaha, which makes it omniscient. Right? So by adding that word Sarvagnya Lakshanaha, Shankara says that take that auspicious Medha as omniscient Medha. Right? The one which knows everything. The one who knows everything. Who is the one who knows everything? Ishvara. So by adding that Sarvagnya Lakshana to Sumedha, Shankara has said that I have the same omniscience as Ishvara. And he says Mama. Mama here means, of course, I have that Medha. Then Amritaha Kshitaha. Okay, Amritaha Akshitaha can be interpreted in two ways. Again, all grammatical twists, interesting twists by splitting the word in two different ways. So the first split is Amritaha plus Akshitaha. Okay. The second split is Amritaha Ukshitaha. The first one is Amritaha. It's got a visarga. Amritaha plus Akshitaha. The second one doesn't have visarga. Amrita Ukshitaha. So now let's look at these two meanings. The first meaning is Amritaha Akshitaha. Means that Amritaha means I'm immortal. I have no death. I have that nature which cannot die. So Amritaha. And Akshitaha can be taken as Akshinaha. Kshinaha can be taken as change or decay. Therefore, Akshitaha means that which does not have Apakshayaha. To use Tattva terms. Akshitaha is that which is free of Apakshaya. The Kshi is the Dhatu. Kshi is the root which indicates decay, right? Degeneration. Therefore, Amritaha Akshayaha, I am that which has no death at all, neither do I have any degeneration. Right? Now, an interesting question here is out of the two, death and degeneration, which is more troublesome?
Obviously, degeneration.
Yeah, because dead people do not complain, right? Only degeneration.
Morbidity is the one which troubles.
And
That's the
death is
first.
a one-time event,
That's the first
while
meaning.
degeneration is slow. Hmm.
Okay. Now the second meaning is Amrita Uksitaha. So Amrita we can take it as Amritena. By Amritam Uksitaha. So Amritena Uksitaha means the word Uksitaha has got a dhatu called Uksh. Uksh dhatu means to soak. Right? To soak, put it in water or something. And what are you soaking it in? Amrita. So Amritena Uksitaha, soaked in immortality. Right? Like you soak a rasagulla in the sugar syrup. Similarly, I, says Trishanku, am soaked in this nectar of immortality. And what does it say? Iti Trishankor Vedanu. This is what was said by Trishankur Maharaj, Trishankur Rishi. Now, whenever we chant a mantra for japa, there are three things you should mention, right? What are they? Before you start a japa of a mantra, in the traditional, and most of us don't do it, okay? But the traditional mantras, when you see from traditional sources, whenever you chant a mantra, there are three things mentioned: the rishi, the chandaha, and the devataha. So this is not mentioned here in the what they call mantra itself, but we should know if you are going to chant. Because I said in the beginning that this mantra is for breaking the mindset of I am a slave, right? So that for that, when you chant the mantra, you are doing for a specific purpose. To get that purpose, you have to chant the mantra correctly as mandated by the Shastra. So Rishi, of course, you know, Trishankuhu, the Devata is Ishvara, Paramatma. And the Chandaha is a Chandaha which we have not used so far. It's called Pangti. So Trishanku Rishi, Pangti Chandaha, and Ishvara as the Devata. So with this, we'll stop for today. Any questions?
So Acharyaji, when we say Devata is Ishvara, we are
Ishvara.
considering it this Ishvara as Nirguna.
No. You are praying.
Okay.
Praying means Hiranyagarbha, Saguna Ishvara.
Sir, a very Laukika question. When after the marriage ceremonies, when the fire is taken home, usually in earlier days there was one kitchen, one fire. So what exactly happens? I know it's very Laukika, but I'm just asking you for my curiosity.
Well, you can, I don't know whether you have 10 different fires or 10 people living in the house.
Yes, that's what I
So,
thought. How could that
no,
be?
no idea. You know,
Yeah.
it's part of
Okay.
tradition.
Okay, Acharya. Yeah.
Okay. So with this, thank you for your patience. We'll end for the day. Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnam Eva Vashishyate Om Shanti 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 Om Tat Sat Om Namah
Om Tat
Shivaya.
Sat.
Thank you for your patience. Om.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you, Acharya ji.